Hello everyone, I just want to stop by to make a little video to emphasize why you must learn to meditate properly. A meditation that restores you to your own center of dignity and gives you back power over your life. The human race is subject to a curse. It's called original sin, if I may use a religious phrase. And what it means is that you're subject to everything. You're subject to everything, hypnotically subject to everything. Notice how if something upsets you a little bit, just a little bit, then it forms a memory, doesn't it? And you think about it, and you relive the moment in your mind. And when you relive it, you experience perhaps the emotion again. And then you may decide to do something about it. And so you start to build your life around doing something because you were upset by something. And I could go on, but I think you got the idea. Everything you react to, you become subject to. And basically, eventually, you're subject to everything. Why? Why are you subject to everything? You're subject to wrong authorities. You're subject to the law. You're subject to emotions. You're subject to dark moods. You're subject to worries. You're subject to physical ailments. You're subject even to the weather. People become so sensitive that they become very sensitive if there's a little rain or a little change in the weather. Some people don't feel well. And so you become subject to everything, not to mention your wrong authorities around you. So you're subject to your teacher's child, to your child's teacher. You're subject to your parents. You're subject to anyone that could upset you. You're subject to all manner of experts. You just, your whole life, you become totally subject to everything. And the more you were traumatized as a child, the more you were emotionalized. There's the word, emotionalized as a child. Even if you came from a relatively nice home with halfway decent parents, if you were emotionalized, then you will find yourself becoming increasingly subject to everything until finally everything you're subject to. You can't even face the day. Everything dominates you, and you become subject to a wrong partner, to your pills, to your bills, everything. Do you understand? So you have to come out from this subjugation. You have to be set free from it. How is that? Well, Christ made it possible. If you become subject to him, see, everything has to be subject to something. There's an old expression, there's no loose cannon in the universe. Everything is subject to something. Even each atom is subject to the laws of physics and so on. So you must become subject to God. If you're subject to God through Christ and him only, then you're no longer subject to anything else. Do you get it? It's either, it's like on or off. It's either one thing or the other. Christ summed it up when he said, no man can serve two masters. You either love one or hate the other. You can't ride two horses at the same time. And so it is that you become subject to everything, and instead of God. So become subject to God. So how do you do that? Well, you have to find his light. You have to find his inner light and have his inner light shine upon everything. And you have to yearn for the light. That's the beginning. You yearn for truth. You yearn for the light. You yearn for something pure, something good, something you've always wanted, but people disappointed you, see? See, you thought you could find goodness in people, but they disappointed you. They betrayed you. They had feet of clay. They had some answers, but not enough. And they pretended to have answers when they really didn't. You don't want to be subject to people. Don't look to people for love or for anything. Take a step back, learn to do the little meditation, and yearn for the light. Yearn for truth. Yearn for what's good and what is pure. Yearn to know the purpose for your existence. And God will answer. He will send a little bit of light. Then you'll be able to begin to see things as they are. See, because right now you're also subject to delusions, and you're subject to lies. That's right. All around you are liars, and they're very good at it. Very good at it. Because they know that once you buy into the lie, you're subject to it, and then you're subject to them. So it sounds like it should be a Herculean task, and that it should be almost impossible when all around you are nothing but liars, and you're subject to everything emotionally, and everything upsets you, and you have all your bills and your health problems and everything else. It sounds impossible. But remember what Christ said. With man, it would be impossible, but with God, all things are possible. So how does it begin? Yearn for the truth. Learn to sit quietly and become aware of God. God told us to be still, he said, and know that I am God. Be still and experience reality. Experience the nearness of God. And what is it? It's like conscience. When you were a little child and you did something wrong, you got angry at your mommy, for example, you felt bad. Now, sometimes people came along and ruined it because they tried to make you feel bad. You see what I mean? They used a lot of words, and they yelled at you and screamed at you and gave you a big lecture, and they tried to make you feel bad, and then you resented that. Then maybe you rebelled against it. But the original feeling bad inside, in your heart, wordlessly, that's from God. That's your closest link to God. Then you also saw things. You saw things. You noticed little things. You noticed maybe someone who was supposed to be really nice, your uncle or your aunt or somebody, but you saw there was meanness in them, or you saw them do something that wasn't right when nobody else was looking. You saw them do something that wasn't right. You saw that as a child, and you just knew that it wasn't right. I'll never forget one time I was at Starbucks. I'll tell you a quick story and then it'll be over. And there was a nice man and his little daughter that always came in, and we got to talking. And before you know it, we were not really friends, but sort of, more than just, we would talk. And his little daughter was very sweet. And he gave her a little, an iPhone or something rather. I don't know, that she could watch some kind of a little kid's movie on it or kid's video or something. So she would be watching that while he was ordering, something, 2 items to go. And it was nice to see the little girl with her dad every day. That was a nice thing to see, incidentally. But anyway, one time I was there and I was working on my computer and so forth, and we had already said hi, how you doing and everything, and they were standing there, and the little girl was sitting at the same table I was. It was a big table, and she was sitting there and she was watching something. And then all of a sudden, there was something there that wasn't quite right. It wasn't quite right. And she went to her daddy, daddy. And, he was, I don't know, he was getting ready to, he was talking to the person at Starbucks or something. He didn't really pay much mind to it. But I saw that she had seen something that wasn't quite right in that whatever she was watching, and she wanted to show her daddy, look. See, little kids, they know, they see. That's from God. All you have to do is refine that and recognize that it's the most important thing. You're linked to your Creator. And then after that, progressively you will become freed from all of your emotional entanglements and attachments and all of your problems and all of your issues. You'll be free from them. If the thing is still around, like, for example, some physical thing or bad weather or a bill, if it's still around, you'll be able to observe it without being subject to it. See, now you see it, you resent it. You see it, you struggle with it, and then you fall into it. Even your physical issues, you fall into them, and you become immersed in them. You have to learn how to stand back. You understand? I'll never forget one time I saw a man, and he had something, some kind of a pain or something. And he was sitting there like this, with his eyes closed, and he was dealing with it, but I could see that he was in it. He was in it. You know how you fall into sleep, so deeply into sleep in your dreams that it's hard to wake up in the morning? Or you fall in deeply into your food and you become all groggy, or you fall into something and you're totally lost in it. Well, that happens too with physical sensations and ailments. You have to learn how to stand back. So there it is. There's the pain. There's the bill. There's what the problem or whatever it is. But you watch it. And instead of being in it, you're separate from it. Do you understand? And when you're separate from it and you're watching it in God's light, then God's light can have an effect on it, a good effect.